Well, you did it. You signed up for RAGBRAI. And maybe it's your first RAGBRAI and you just don't know what to do next. I mean, you've got this package on its way with your registration, bike band, all that sort of thing. But do you go with the baggage truck? Do you have them carry all your stuff? Or do you go with a charter? And what's really the difference? How does this actually work? So in this video, we're going to hit the highlights and hopefully take some of the mystery out of the difference between the baggage truck and the charter and what those charters do. So buckle up and come along. Alrighty, I've been there. I did my first RAGBRAI at one point in time. We're not going to talk about when that was, but hey, you've done it. You signed up. You're ready to go. Now the reality sets in. It's just going to be you and your bike in Iowa, pedaling from the west to the east for a week. That's where you're going to live. You're going to live out of a bag on your bike. And it's probably going to be a life-changing experience. I mean, it is fantastic. Very few people seem to go on one RAGBRAI, but you know, this is your first one. So let's talk a little bit about what that means. All right, there's two main ways to do RAGBRAI. And I'm sure there's a ton of offshoots, but let's just kind of stay focused here for a second. The first one is, and everything's based off this, the RAGBRAI registration. So basically, you've gone online, you've typed, spent some money, and now you've got that registration packet on its way. What does that registration packet actually include? And this, surprisingly, I see a lot of questions about on forums. And one of the big questions is like, how do I get my stuff there? Hey, that's what you just paid for, boss. You need to read the thing before you hit the pay button. And by the way, as of last year, I don't think it's any more transferring of your thing. So you bought it, you got it, that's it. Anyway, let's move on. The thing is, RAGBRAI's registration gets you a participant band, a bike band, and a luggage tag. So what that means is from the start town to the finish town, you have full RAGBRAI support. That means if you need a sag and you're alongside the other side of the road with your bike upside down, which is how you signal the sag people, they're going to check your rider number and they're going to log that in the book that you use that service. Okay? Not a bad thing. I've had to sag a few times and God, you meet some nice people on the sag wagon. Anyway, and then that luggage tag is going to get your bag from your last overnight to your next overnight. Okay? Now, it doesn't give your bag wings. That means you have to take your happy ass over to the truck with your bag. And you have to have it there by a certain time. The bags will be unloaded in basically the same arrangement as they were brought onto the bike or onto the truck. So we'll talk about bags and stuff like that in some other videos, but it's usually a 50-pound bag, one bag, no plastic containers, and they have some suggestions, and all this information is on the RAGBRAI website. So definitely a great resource to overview of what you can take and what you can't take. So we've got that. We've got our bike band. That's going to say, hey, my bike goes with this rider. And I know that sounds kind of weird, but you know, if you get separated from your bike for anything, like you went to the SAG or God forbid, you had to be carted off on an ambulance, they'll get you your bike and your stuff back, okay? It will be taken to that town. You'll be reunited with your stuff when you get out of wherever you're at. So, all that said, three things that you paid for. You have paid for the bike band, you have paid for the rider band, and you have paid for the truck to take your luggage across the state of Iowa. What doesn't that include? Doesn't include anything else, really. It's pretty simple. It doesn't include you getting to the start. It doesn't include you getting home from the end or back to whatever method of transportation you took to get there in the first place. So basically, everything stems from having the rider registration. That's it. That's all it is. Doesn't pay for meals, doesn't pay for beers, pie, any of that stuff. If you look on the channel, I've got a lot of videos on how much money to bring and how to pack, all that sort of thing. And this is that great time to say, hey, if you haven't subscribed yet, please like and subscribe. And, that really does help out the channel. And I know I've heard that thousands of times from other channels that I watch, but you know what it really does when you're on this side of the camera, having that notification bell and having the subscribers really does help. One of these days I'm going to be making fat stacks of cash, but looking at my bank account, that hasn't been the last little bit. So anyway, back to what you paid for. You've got all that done. Now, here's your challenges. Here's where you're starting to sweat. Well, how do I get to the start? How do I park my car at the end and bike towards it? Or do I park my car at the beginning and try and get back to it to drive back home? Well, let's look at that for a minute. It's, in my opinion, better to have the car at the end. So you will be biking to your car, okay? If you want to make it a long last day and you don't want to have to get there by a certain time, I would definitely do that. There's usually a parking lot. Yes, it usually costs money. And that parking lot is in town. It will be on the Facebook site for that town. All the information will be there, how much it's costing, when it's open, all that sort of thing. So think about that. If you drive your car to the beginning, now you got to get you and your bike back. So you can see where the hang up is. And this is the first time that you think, I wonder if I can get a ride. Yes, you can. That's where the charter service comes in, okay? So charter services do a lot of things, from the basic transportation of you and your bike and your gear to the start, or even the middle of the state if you're only picking up, like half the ride or whatever the case is. They can do that. Or they can even set up your tent, set up a tent you rent from them, provide all the camping equipment that you need. Obviously, more equipment, more money. Oh, and then there's the ones that will feed you and have air-conditioned bathrooms and have shower houses and all that sort of thing. So let's just take into consideration here what some of those services are and how you find this out for your own good. All right, so charter service. As I alluded to a few minutes ago, the charter service basically is your logistics buddy. If you're doing it yourself with just the registration, you are your own roadie, okay? So you don't have a support crew. You're just out there. You, your bike, some flip-flops, a bunch of cash, and you're riding across the state of Iowa and peeing in big plastic boxes or cornfields along the way. Now, charter service. Charter services offer a variety of logistics, and all the charter services that are associated directly with RAGBRAI are listed on the RAGBRAI website. Now, I will say right now, so it doesn't get confusing, a charter service is not a team. You will see people wanting to join teams on RAGBRAI forums, that sort of thing. A charter service is not a team, okay? Teams are basically their own little entity. Their offerings and costs and everything like that are just for the team members. They might travel in a school bus. They might sleep outside but have a campground or a campsite, at some farmer's place. Could be in town, could be out of town. You don't know. Could be on the top of a hill at the end of the day. Not dissing teams. A lot of people have a lot of fun with teams, but that's not what we're talking about. Registration, RAGBRAI, baggage truck, and charter service. Okay, so here we go with the charter service. The charter service offers many, many different options, and there are various levels of charter. Now, one of the things that people I think get confused on is that they're going to have to sign up for a charter for the whole week if they want just one of their services. And that's not the truth. The charters all have a la carte service. So as we said before, if you park your car at the end town, you will be able to find a charter service that will take you and your bike to the starting point. Now, that could be the end of your involvement with that charter service. That's just it. That's all you paid for. You paid a couple $100. I don't know what it is. Each charter service is different. But let's say you paid a couple $100 to get across the state. That's it. So then where your RAGBRAI thing kicks in is you're taking your bag to the baggage truck every day. And at the end of the ride, you're going to the baggage truck and you're picking your stuff up and you're finding a tent spot. You're setting up your tent. You're going and find a shower, find the restrooms, find something to eat. Really, RAGBRAI is just the world's largest game of hide and go seek. But that's just my personal opinion. Anyway, so that's one service you can get, okay? Transportation, nothing else. The next level is you can have your transportation of you and your bike and your gear to the start, but then every morning you pack up your tent and you take it back to your charter. I'll use Bike World Iowa as an example. Bike World, I've done this with them before. I connected with them one year that I did this, and they took my tent and my stuff in their truck to their campground at the end of each day. I found their truck with the signs that they posted, went over, got my bag, set up my own tent, and still went, found a shower, found my food, all that sort of thing. They have a big tent that they put up, and just hung out with other riders. So that was really kind of cool, and did a great job with it. I already had my RAGBRAI registration because the charters all need your RAGBRAI rider number in order to sell you the other services they have. So that's just one example. I had gotten myself to the start because I rode with a friend who was also having their friend drop them off. So it was, throw in for some gas money, and I got to the start. At the end, I had a friend of mine drive my car to the end, pick me up, and take me back. So the logistic part I solved separate from the charter area, okay? But I was wanting to hang out with people that I knew, and I knew Bike World had those people in their charter, and everything was cool. So let's just look at this really quick. Day in the life of the baggage truck, general registration. You pack up all your stuff. You are totally self-sufficient. You are your own roadie. You find your bag. You find a place to put your tent up. You find a place to shower. You find a place to use the Kaibo. And you pack all your stuff up the next day. You take it to the baggage truck and start your journey. Done. Okay? Charter service, a day in the life of a charter service is you might just throw your stuff in your bag, your sleeping bag, your shave kit, all that sort of thing, and use their bathroom, maybe even eat their food before you leave, their coffee, donuts, whatever else they have, and then throw your leg over your bike and go on down the road. Magically, when you get to your next campground that is for your charter, your tent will be set up, your bag of stuff will be there, and you start your night over. So there's a lot less things, and then you don't have to worry about oh geez, I hope I can find my tent. I hope I can find a place to put my tent. They've already got that covered. So that's a very, very powerful thing, especially if you had a long day on the trail. Some of those days, man, you're just like, oh God, I don't want to mess with setting up my effing tent. Well, if you're doing the baggage thing, man, that's where you're going to be at. You're going to be finding your bag, finding a place to put your tent, and going through that. That is the case. So how do you decide what's best for you? Well, let's talk about it. Okay, the most black and white part of this, how do I decide? It is your budget. That's what it comes down to. Let's just say that you're into the $65 a day for food and drink type thing if you're going with the baggage truck registration, what you paid for online directly to RAGBRAI. You know, that's great. So, and here comes Charter Service A or Charter Service B, and they're at $800 more or $1,200 more or whatever they're going to charge depending on the services you want. Can you afford it? You know, I mean, seriously, do you want to? Do you want to be that, much into it, so to speak? Really depends. It just really depends on a lot of things. So first, look at your budget. All right, number 2, your tolerance for logistics. Are you a person that can just make it happen? You can Google everything. You know that, oh, well, if I drive my car to the end, I can do a one-way rental across the state and drop that off, and then I'll have my car and everything, and I won't have to worry about, how to get there. I mean, I can just do all this myself, and then you know that, hey, I can rent a U-Haul pickup and drive myself one way across the state, drop it off in some little small town that we're starting at. I've got my bike, I've got my tent, I got all my stuff ready to go, and I am just in the general big campground. I'm finding my own showers, finding my own food, all that sort of thing. And I'm taking my stuff after I've set it up, slept, packed it up, taking it to the truck, and we're doing it all again tomorrow. Awesome, But, RAGBRAI is like a 7-day endurance event, basically. So if you want to add that to your repertoire for the day, good deal. Maybe a charter is that comfort of knowing that your tent's going to be set up. You're going to have a place to sleep. The shower's going to be close. Maybe they even got food. Maybe they got some beers. Who knows? But those are all things you pay for. So that's the tolerance of, your logistics. Can you not want to deal with that? Maybe that's just it. All right, factor 3 is your need for a safety net. Maybe it's your first time. This is the first time you're doing this. It's your first big bike ride. And, you've never ridden with big groups of people. And it'd just be one less thing you have to worry about to go with a charter versus to going with the baggage truck and the registration you paid for originally. So you got to look in the mirror and decide what's going to be the best for me. Will I have that endurance maybe on the 3rd and 4th day to actually go through all this stuff? And man, sometimes it's hot, sometimes it's rain, windy, tent gets blown away, whatever. But yeah, that is number 3. Okay, number 4, social experience. That is the big one. Are you going to be comfortable meeting new people every minute of every day that you're on this? Or do you feel more comfortable with that little group of friends that you've been introduced to because you've done a bus ride across a state, and you've also got this whole, camaraderie, like, I know that's Ted and that's Linda and that's Susan and all that sort of thing, and they're from Mississippi or they're from Colorado or whatever, and you've got kind of that social thing to hang out with, as opposed to just randomly meeting people at the campground and striking up conversations, because you're not going to see these people again. And on a sidebar, people always tell me like, oh, you're not going to see those people all the time. You're probably going to see those people, but are you really going to notice them? Because there's just so many people and they're not wearing the same kit they wore the last day. And, I've found over the years that I've done this, that all the people that I ride with usually get out of there about the same time. And I'll eventually see them at a hill, usually as I'm being dropped, or at a beer tent, or, lunch, something like that, just sitting in a farmer's front yard in front of the in front of the house. So yeah, I mean, it's just really, really, you're going to meet those same people, or see those same people, I should say, every day, but probably just not as an intimate thing as knowing where they're all from, all that sort of thing. So to add to that social experience, the home base that charter service gives you. You know, you're not in the main campground, you're in XYZ's charter space. And you know that they've got showers. And you know that they bring their own kaibos. And you know that there's donation beers and whatever the case. So you've got that home base, you know. Whereas again, with the general registration, it's going to be new every day. You know, the main campground is usually pretty close to downtown, and it's usually pretty close to showers. But you know, all the shower places that you pay for, they have shuttles. And then of course RAGBRAI has buses that they shuttle people from the main campground to the downtown for bands and the expo stuff, food, whatever. So, you know, you'll have transportation with either one of those. You just probably don't need it with as much with the charter service as you do when you're your own roadie doing everything yourself. So concluding, how do you pick? How do you pick? Basically, what type of RAGBRAI experience do you want? Do you want, I'm doing it myself, I'm getting on down the road with all my stuff, I'm dragging it to the truck, I'm setting up my stuff, I'm finding my stuff, you know, all that sort of thing. Or am I going with the support of the charter service? And we've talked about what all those things they do. And yeah, it's, you just got to have a hard look, you know, try and do the pluses and minuses, then look at your budget and all that sort of thing and just find out what's best for you. I mean, some people would want to go to a charter service because they don't want to buy a couple $100 tent, or they don't have, you know, any experience putting up their tent. So, you know, RAGBRAI is not the way to learn how to set up a tent. Please, if you buy a tent, go set that thing up in your backyard or your grandma's house or something like that. Hell, even sleep in it. Get really weird. You can sleep in it. You can keep your bike outside and then hire somebody to snore and fart next to you, and you'll have your RAGBRAI experience. If it's under 70 degrees, you know, try and get one of those blowtorches to blow onto your tent. So yeah, that'll be the whole thing for you. So you should choose the basic registration if you are an experienced cyclist and you have maybe done this before. Maybe you haven't done it for a few years. It's basically all the same. You know, you're good at logistics. You've got your own ride to and from. You need to go throughout the days. So you know how to get there. You know what you're going to do when you get back. You're being picked up at the end. You're being dropped off at the beginning. All that sort of thing. You know what you're going to do. And you've got some experience. You've got all your gear. You're familiar with your gear. You know, I'd save the money and do the basic registration. You should choose a charter if maybe this is your first time and you're overwhelmed by your logistical challenges will be solved by writing a check. Now, Phil, nobody writes a check. By putting your credit card down, logistic challenges go away. Somebody's going to take care of everything, you know? So that's pretty cool. And now all you have to do is ride, have a good time, meet some people, you know, see the beautiful state of Iowa, all those little small towns, fire stations that are serving pancakes, Girl Scouts selling cookies, church groups selling food at night. Yeah, I mean, you know, do the whole thing. Basically, choosing that charter is really good too if you're coming from out of state and you just need to have a safety net. You know, you need to have that support group that, hey, I'm going to ship my bike to these people. They're going to put it together. You know, everything's cool. You know, you need that. You don't have to worry about any of that stuff. I will say too, the charter is good if you're riding solo, whether it's your first time or maybe it's maybe you haven't done it for a while or you just did a couple days at one point in time or whatever the case is. But you got a built-in community. And that's what I said before. You know, your built-in community. So you've met all these people, you know that you're going to be in the same campground with them. You know that you're going to be eating with them. You know, you'll probably find them along the way, have a buddy to talk to and that sort of thing. So that's really pretty cool, as far as the charter service goes. As a little bonus here, when it comes to the charters, here's a few questions that you should ask or look up on your charter's site about how this is going to go. Number one, how early do I have to get up and get out of there? When does the truck leave? When do I need to be out of your campground every morning? If you got an e-bike, definitely ask them, hey, are you going to have a spot for me to charge my e-bike every night? And then the big one that I always think, when are you leaving the last day? The last day is a 70-mile day, and they're trying to leave. They want you in town by 10, whatever the case, because they're going to leave at noon or whatnot. Check with that. And then you got to think, that's the last day. What's it look like? What's the route look like? Can I physically do it and make it there, by that time? So definitely just, ask those basic questions of your charter service, and that'll help you maybe narrow it down between the charter services, and then of course your associated costs with, whatever that would be. Okay, so I want to hear from you. Are you a RAGBRAI veteran? Are you a first timer? Let's put together some tips and tricks, veterans, for those first timers. Put them down in the comments. That's the thing you're supposed to do on YouTube, is put them down in the comments. But the comments could be over there, but who knows? Anyway, put them in the comments. If you've got any questions, fire them off in the comments too, because there's somebody somewhere that's going to have a better answer than I am. I've done this for a couple years now, and I found that out the hard way, because everybody's got an opinion. And if this video helped you out and helped you kind of cut through the crap, so to speak, with what the charter is, how the services work, all that sort of thing, please like and subscribe. As I said earlier in the video, it does really help. And we'll definitely look forward to seeing your comments. My goal is to just help you out and get some of that stuff sorted out before, it's too late. You can't ever start early enough preparing for RAGBRAI, whether it's training, logistics, all that sort of thing. So I hope to see you out there this year. And if you see me, I usually have stickers, and I love meeting you guys. So if you have any questions, get them down in the comments. And until next time, take care of your dash. We'll see you out on the trail.